Well, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm in Queanbeyan, which is just outside Canberra, and we're here to see the Terribly British Day car show. So let's go and have a look at the cars. Well, let's start off here in the Triumph section. Here's a lovely TR3A. It's got the original side screens and some very nice painted silver wire wheels. Of course, the TR3 never officially had an A designation, but it's just an enthusiast's term to denote the one with the longer, wider grille and other small changes. Moving on, this is an earlier type of TR3 in this lovely cherry red, also with the side screens and with a hard top as well. Here's a TR3A again, and look at this lovely shiny blue one with little racing screens. That's very smart. And here's a TR4 with the original hubcaps. That's unusual to see, most of them have aftermarket wheels these days, like this red one. That's got these sort of mini-light style wheels. Here's a beautiful maroon coloured TR6. And, ooh, what's this? This is a TR5 here. They're very unusual. They were fitted with the petrol injection system, the Lotus system, which runs off the distributor, and it's the same engine that was fitted to TR6s and also the petrol injection saloons. So you can tell it's a TR5 because it's got the PI badges and it's the 2.5 litre. They're very rare these days. Very nice car, that one. Here's a beautiful looking Mayflower. Nice original paintwork and with the original side valve 4-cylinder engine. Not exactly a speed machine, but here's a very unusual car. It's a 1932 Triumph Scorpion. There are only two in the country, and this one is the only one of its type in the world because it's been updated with later roadster parts like the headlamps and the grille. It's also got the original wheels from 1932 with the central hub, and unfortunately it's missing the original engine. It would have had a side valve straight 6 with a single Solex downdraft carburettor, but now it's got the same carburettor but a straight 4 overhead valve. Here's another TR3, and here's a TR4. Here's a lovely Lotus Elan in such nice condition. This would be the twin cam model because it's the Sprint, and looking at the paintwork, it's got this nice patinated mark below the fuel filler cap. Here's a Lotus XL. This was a lower in the range model than the Esprit in the early 90s and late 80s. Here's a modern Elise. And oh, look at this very smartly presented Austin Healey 3000. Lovely two-tone on these. The interior is very smart. Must have been retrimmed. And look at the fly-off handbrake. Oh. Here are some bug-eyed Sprites, another Healey 3000 and a Sprigid. Modern Aston Martin, not to my taste, but it's got an interesting number plate on it, that's for sure. There's a DB7, very sleek these. Of course they were very similar in their underpinnings to the Jaguar XJWV12 because Aston Martin and Jaguar were both part of Ford at the time. And here's a DB6. I love this DB6, it's in a very nice original condition. Even the paintwork is completely original. Oh, and it's got British Leyland seatbelts! The DB6 of course had the same engine as the DB5, but it was longer and had some slight styling changes like the separate bumpers and an elongated rear. Hiding in the back there is a Rolls-Royce Shadow 2, and here in the front is this very nice two-tone Bentley S2, followed by this very stately Rolls-Royce Wraith. Look at the huge headlamps on it. Here is a two-tone Silver Spirit. Unusual to see these in two-tone, but I think this one's quite fetching. Here we have a modern Bentley Continental. That'll be the V8 version because it's got the black grille. And here's a W12 version. There's a nice red Bentley Mulsanne from the 1980s, followed by a oyster-coloured Turbo R.
I told you to buy the car.
Here's a Bentley S3, very sporty saloon, that one for the time, followed by an equally sporty but modern saloon with a very nice number plate, the Mulsanne there. Here we have this very nicely redone Bentley S1. Look at the depth of that paintwork. And this Bentley here is a Mark 6 with a Park Ward drop head body. It's gorgeous. Look at the design on it. This one was built by Park Ward for the 1951 Earl's Court Motor Show, and this very car was exhibited there. This blue one here is an Arnage, but I'm not so fond of the chrome wheels. They're a bit gaudy for my taste. Nonetheless, a very nice car, especially in that colour. And here's another Mulsanne with the twin headlamps this time. This is a very nice Turbo R in that colour. It's slightly later than ours because it's got the deeper chin spoiler and also the chrome plate behind the number plate. This is another Mulsanne, and here's a convertible Continental. This Ford Escort seems to be a little bit lost. And here's another Silver Spirit. This Rover P5B looks from a distance like it's got a vinyl roof on it, but it doesn't. It's actually just painted black. Very nice red interior in that one. Of course, most of them were automatics. Now on to the MGs. Here's a very nice Mark 1 MGB and a UK import MGB V8. This one's also very smart, and this white one here has overdrive on it. This mustard coloured Mark II GT is very 70s indeed, including the Webasto sunroof. And here's a 1951 MG Y-Type. I love the little passing light on the front. Here are some TFs. Stunning colour, that green there. Haven't seen one like that before. Oh, this black one here is a TF 1500 with the bigger engine. Nicely polished there. Here's an MGA. That'll be the 1500 because it's a 1957 model. And look at this RV8 here. I don't know why it's got a Rover badge, it's definitely an MG RV8. Such a nice metallic green too. Of course, these had the wonderful Rover V8, there it is. That's a very recognisable engine. Very luxurious interior as well. And look at this TC. That's very sporty. You can just imagine that flying around Brooklands. And look at the size of the supercharger on the front. Here's a more modern racing example. And there are some more Bs over here. Or look at the nice old Rileys over here. This blue one will be a pre-1937 1.5 litre, probably an Adelphi, because it doesn't have the chrome that they put on in 37. These two here will be Riley RMBs. Now we're on to the Rovers. This is a more modern Rover 75 Estate, and look at this lovely patinated Cyclops. Let's see if it's an earlier one. And no, it's got the round instruments, so it's not a 1949. The earliest models had square instruments in a very Art Deco style. Over here we have a Rover 3500 SD1 SE. The SE was slightly lower down the range than the Vanden Pla, meaning it had cloth seats and didn't have overriders on the front. This one does have overriders, but that could be a retrofit or an optional extra. There's a Rover 800, that's unusual to see, and especially in estate form. And here's another SD1. This one looks to me like a Vanden Pla, especially from the wheels, but if we look inside it's got a cloth interior. Oh, and it's got a manual gearbox. I wonder if that's the LT77 or a Celica aftermarket box. Must drive very nicely though. And here we have a lovely P4 100 in green. I do like the P4 series. Here's an MG Magnet, and hiding in the background under the tree is a Morris Minor. Ooh, this black Rover is a 105, which is a later model. Yes, you can see it's got a radio, and just behind it is yet another Rover 75, but this time in saloon form rather than estate. Here are the Armstrong Siddeleys. That one there is a Sapphire, that'll be the limousine, followed by the Hurricane and the Typhoon. And then this blue one here on the right is a later Sapphire. I know that the Armstrong Siddeley Club have a car in the club which once belonged to Ian Fleming. I'm not sure if it's here today though. Here's a nice Morgan, a 4.4 that one, and behind it is an Alvis TE21. And look at that interior, fabulous walnut on that dashboard. Here's an E-Type, we all know what an E-Type looks like. And this is a Bristol 603. Of course, Bristol imported the American V8s and had great success. This one here is an earlier Bristol 400, which has the most fantastic design. They were partly based on pre-war BMW designs, and you can see where the aircraft manufacturing technologies went into their design and construction in the factory. This is something you don't see every day. A Ford Zephyr 6! Look at that Venetian blind in the back. Here's a TR7 Coupe, followed by a nice satin blue Spitfire. This Humber Vogue is very smart, and oh, look, it's even got period accessories, like the tray tables, the vintage map, and in the back it's got a record player. Lovely picnic set. There's a Polaroid on the parcel shelf, of course. Very stylish picnic set. This is an Austin Shearline. Not sure about the white walls on it, but again, one of the top limousines of the 50s. Very unusual to see. This over here is even more unusual. It's a wedge British Leyland Austin Princess. They were never sold in Australia, so this one must be an import. Not quite the expected successor to the princesses of the 40s and 50s, but look at the velour. Oh, and it floats on fluid, can't forget that. And it's the 2000 HL model, of course. Nonetheless, a very interesting car. And I have no idea what this yellow thing is. Looks very sporty though, and I assume it's some sort of fiberglass kit car.
Could you come a bit closer to me, please, because you keep getting in the way of the camera.
Let's see what it says on the windscreen. It's a Rochdale GT. Spartan on the inside, but I'm sure it goes like stink. Here's another Humber Vogue, this time in estate form. even rarer. Oh, and this is a very rare beast indeed, an Austin 3 litre. I like the red, it looks very smart on it. These were an upmarket Austin with the larger engine, but they didn't sell very well, unfortunately. There are many mini Mokes. Here's a Hillman Hunter. Yes, this is, oh, it's got the vinyl roof, and it's the Regal version. Very 70s, that boxy shape and the cloth interior. Here's a Jag. And this lovely brown Vanden Pla Princess. Look at the interior, very smart with those tray tables, just like a miniature Rolls-Royce. And you can see that the Vanden Pla grille on the front was a bit of an afterthought. They put that big metal plate in there to stop it falling off. And look at that powerful 1300cc A series. Very sweet little Austin 7s.
So it is. Yeah. So it's bog standard chassis.
Tiny little engine nestling under the bonnet there.
You're back.
My ladies and gentlemen, in 13 minutes' time, your presence will be required at the main stage for presentations.
This is something you don't see often at car shows. A Humber Super Snipe with a very nice sun visor there above the windscreen, and it's an automatic. Such a shame these aren't very valuable. This is a 1949 Singer 4A Roadster. This pre-war Singer Le Mans looks like it's come straight from the barn where it was found. Very unusual to see twin downdraft Solexes and very advanced air filtration system. Just an upturned dish to stop dirt getting in there. Here's another TR3A with a pair of spotlights on the front. This looks like an Austin Healey, but it's not. It's an American-built fiberglass car with a huge V8 in it. There's a very nicely done up BSA, beautifully polished fuel tank on it. And here's a Series 2 Land-Rover ambulance. You can tell it's the military spec version because it's got the vertical side lights and indicators. This Austin 7 is rather sweet. It's got a wooden body on it. Not sure when the body was put on. And here's a Riley Elf. If I were going to have a Mini, I'd have a Riley Elf or a Wolseley Hornet. Just because they're a bit different, really. There's an olive green A series under the bonnet of this red Mini here. Many other Minis, variously. Of course, mostly Coopers. Unusual to see a standard non-Cooper version. This one's rather charming in its original paintwork, but it has some interesting wheel arch extensions on it. Ooh, burnt copper rocker cover. I approve. This is a very unusual car. It's a sort of special built on a Jaguar E-Type chassis, and it's got a much wider body. Of course you can see all the exposed rivets. It's all aluminium, and it's been done in the style of the Eagle E-Types. The owner briefly lifted the bonnet earlier, and he talked about how it was only developing 300 horsepower and he was expecting at least 600 from it when it was run in. It's got D-Type style wheels on it as well. This E-Type's very nice in this gold colour. You don't see many in gold, but I think it really suits it. There's a Series 3 behind as well. And here's a very nice Sovereign. Look at all that paperwork. Surely it must be one owner from new. Here's an XJ6. And here's an earlier XJ6, a Series 3 no less. There's a Jaguar Mark II. And here's an XKR. Of course, the XKR was the supercharged version of the Jaguar XK8. Speaking of which, here is the XK8 behind in its standard form. Very nice design in this English sky blue colour. This here is a 1937 Jaguar, and of course being pre-war it's not technically called a Jaguar, it's an SS, because they only became Jaguar post-war, but the state this one was in before it was restored is absolutely incredible. It's a 1.5 litre, and the restorers should be incredibly proud of their work. There's a very nice XK8 convertible. And what's this? This looks like a replica D-Type. I'm assuming it's a replica, because a real D-Type probably wouldn't leave a museum. Nice to see it road registered. Most of these replicas are confined to the track. There's an XK and an XJS. There's an F-Type and another XK8. Nice Mark II there. And sitting all alone here is this rather smart X-Type. XJ6 here, next to this beautiful XK150. Oh, look at that interior with the Moss gearbox in it. This one's looking quite racy with the mesh over the headlamps and the bonnet strap. And there's an S-Type hiding in the corner there. Here's yet another E-Type. They had a very good turnout of E-Types this year because of course it was the 60th anniversary and the last celebration of that. This is a Series 3 V12 with the quad Stromberg carburetors.
wrong with all these people? I think I'm trying to find Ruth. She's wearing a dress.
This yellow one with the black roof is a bit different. And here are a pair of Interceptor 1s. This is the Morris Minor section. Nice go faster chin spoiler on that one. And of course, no display would be complete without a lovely woody traveller. I've come back to the Triumphs now. Here's a nice dolly Sprint with the 16-valve single-cam engine, and ooh, this is the Mark 1 2,500 PI, so the same petrol injection engine as the TR5 and TR6, but in the saloon form. These did very well in rallying in period, but they're very unusual to see on the road now. They only made 9,000 of them or so. And this is the Mark II version, with the slightly different front. This is, of course, a Triumph 1250, just like mine. This is also a 64. He's got Ross-style wheel covers on it. Before coming to the show, I wasn't aware that this one was on the road, so I've learned something. It's got the original dashboard, and a different interior to mine. He's even fitted overdrive to it. Under the bonnet we of course have the same 1147cc engine, but his has the twin 1 1/8 inch SUs from a Herald S. Moving on, we've got some nice Stags here. This is a 2,500 S. This Stag is very nice in blue with the nice detachable hardtop. That's the 2,500 there, the S in the pimento colour. So that's about it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed our look at Terribly British Day 2021, and I will see you in the next video. Ta-ta for now.